So I have a regular deck of cards here. You can see that all the cards are different, but just to be sure, we're going to shuffle them up a little bit. So I'll shuffle it into packets here, just to make sure that there's no order to the deck that's been prearranged in any way. And what I want you to do is very, very simple. I want you to just reach in, and approximately halfway, I want you to cut the top of the deck off and place it on the table right here. So the spectator would then cut the top of the deck off. And then you would say, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the rest of the cards and I'm going to set them back and hold the break that you've created. So we have this break that you've created with your cut. And let me just quickly review what's happened. The cards were shuffled to begin with. I shuffled them again. And then you cut the deck. You cut half off. And then we held the break that you have created. Now, I just want to ask you a question. Have you ever heard of the TV character Maverick? He's a character that was on a very old television show, and I've just heard about him. I've never even seen the show, but I heard about this person from a long time ago in black and white television. And what I heard about him is that he always wanted to be able to cut the deck and be able to cut directly to the ace of spades. And that was something that he always wanted to do. That would be an amazing thing to do if you were a card player like Maverick. And just again to review, the cards were shuffled. We shuffled them again, and then you cut the deck. And we came up with this break right here. And you can see that just like Maverick, you've cut to the ace of spades. Okay, so very quickly, the explanation of this. It's a very simple trick, and I use the character Maverick. If you're a teenager, you probably can get away with that kind of talk. If you're a really young person, and you probably wouldn't be able to justify that you even know who Maverick is, you might use some different words. You might say, wouldn't it be amazing if you had the ability to always cut to the ace of spades? You would win every card game that you ever played. You could say something like that. And then do the reveal at the end. But very quickly, this operates only on a method, and most of what we're doing here requires just a good presentation, because we're not doing a whole lot of different things to misdirect. We're just using a very simple force, and the force is the crisscross or the delay force that we talked about, and you can find a lot of great ways to use this. The first thing you're going to need to do is you need to have this one set up, so you're not going to have the spectator shuffle the deck. But what you want to do is have the ace of spades sitting on top of the deck. So that is the card on top of the deck. And what you do is you take the deck out of the box as if it's been sitting in there or whatever. You bring the cards in. And by the way, if you're using cards that are being used by somebody else, if somebody else has them, let me show you one quick trick here for getting a card that you want on top. You can do this. You can look at the cards or appear to look at the cards and take different parts off at a time. I'm just spreading them one hand to the next and picking up different chunks. And once you get to the place where you see the card you want, pick up and separate at that spot. And then you can just set it down and then take some more piles and put them on top. So it looks like you're just looking through the cards and looking at them. And then whenever you show the cards, this is something you do kind of before the trick. You don't draw attention to this. But when you get into the trick and you show the cards that they are all shuffled and mixed up, the way you do this is you spread them out like this and show most of them, but keep a block together right at the very end and don't show the top card. Okay? So if you'll notice on my performance of this, I just showed everything except for kind of the last block of 10 cards or so. And then I closed it back up. And then when I do my shuffle, and I just did a cut shuffle on the deck, the way I did this is that I picked up on one card first. Now, the way I did it is I kind of pushed it towards myself so that I can make sure that with my thumb I can pick up one card. Now, I don't make a big deal out of it, and you're going to need to practice this to do it, somewhat quickly without thinking about it. But I picked up one card, I set that one down, and then I picked up a really small packet. And as I went, the packets could get a little bit bigger. So they don't really remember that maybe I picked up just that one card. Now, the reason for doing this is that instead of just leaving the ace on top, right, showing like this, and then having them cut, it starts to make it look like there's no way that the deck could be prearranged. And that is one big problem with the tricks that I learned as a kid, is that those that required that the deck was prearranged, nobody ever told me in the books that I could maybe shuffle it in a way that would maintain my order. So I want to teach you this. It's a way to cover, and you're not making a big deal out of it, but as people watching the trick think back, they will think, yeah, but you shuffled the deck. The deck was shuffled and then you shuffled it again. So again, just to quickly recap, your ace is on the top, and you show the cards as being all mixed up. You don't show the last block of it so they don't see that ace and subconsciously remember it. And then when you do your cut shuffle, you take one card off, which is the ace, and then you follow up. Okay, so we're shuffling the deck and cutting the cards to shuffle the deck. And then you ask them to cut. You say, can you please cut about halfway? Now, this is very important for the crisscross force, because if they cut really shallow like that, it's a lot harder to sell the fact that they cut to the card you wanted them to. You want both sides to look kind of the same. So when you say cut the deck, say cut about halfway, wherever you think about halfway is. So they'll cut the deck approximately halfway, and then you complete the cut with the crisscross force. You hold it there, and then you recap. You give a little bit of a delay. You talk about what has happened. You say the cards were shuffled. I shuffled them again to make sure there wasn't any order to them, and then I had you cut, and then I replaced the cut at the break that you created. And that's very important you use those words. Say the break that you created, because it really kind of drives home that they're the ones that picked this spot, even though they didn't. It makes them feel like they were the ones that did it, okay? And then you can add a further delay and give them the story about, wouldn't it be amazing if you had the ability to always cut to the ace of spades? That would be incredible if someone was able to do that. They would win every card game if they were able to do that. And you can see here that when you cut into the shuffled deck, you cut directly to the ace of spades, and you're going to pick up the top pack and show the bottom card. So they've cut to that card. So that is the Maverick effect, we'll call it, and it's a very simple trick. And this would actually, I'm telling you, this would fool a lot of people. If an adult professional magician was doing this, this would pass with most people. It's very deceptive. Very, very good use of the crisscross or the delay force. So that's one trick. Again, this is one house that we've built, where the living room is the presentation there at the end, the revelation that we had. The kitchen is the method, and the bedroom there is the presentation that we gave and the words that we used to describe what's going on. So it's a totally different house from some of the other houses that we're going to build, but it's using all these components that are similar between all of them. So there you go, the Maverick effect. That's one trick that you can use using the crisscross or the delay force. Okay, I'd like to try an experiment with you. What I need you to do is I need you to shuffle the cards. So you'd give the cards to the spectator, and the spectator would give it a shuffle. Then they'd give the cards back to you, and you would show them that indeed they did shuffle the cards. You can see all of the cards are in a completely random order. There's nothing ordered about the cards, and that is your shuffle. That's the way you put them. I want to try something very quickly here. I have a pad of paper and a pen. I just want to write something down very quickly. If you just bear with me for a second, let me write down something. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to fold it up, just like so. And I want to set this aside for a second. What I need you to do is I need you to now take the deck that you shuffled, and if you wouldn't mind, would you please cut the deck about halfway and place the top of the deck right there. So the spectator would cut the deck about halfway, just like that. And then you would say, and now what I want to do is I want to take the thing I've written, and just so we can keep it in a safe place, I'm going to put it into the break that you've created. So I'll replace the cards and set it here, right at the break that you've created. Now I just want to point out that you've done everything. You shuffled the cards. I wrote down something on a piece of paper. But you cut the cards, and I put that piece of paper in the break that you made. You've done everything in this. And I just want to see what's happened here in our little experiment. If we take a look, and we lift up at this break that you made, and we very carefully take a look inside of the piece of paper, we'll see that it says the 6 of diamonds. And if we take a look, at the card that you cut to, it happens to be the 6 of diamonds. Okay, so very quickly, the reason why I'm showing you this trick is because it is a demonstration that you can have the exact same method for two very different effects. So the effect that we did before, where we cut to the ace of spades, is essentially a different effect than this one. This is a different effect because we made a prediction and we wrote it on paper. Now the other one was a prediction, but it was presented in a very different way, even though all of the mechanics of what was going on worked out the same way. Now, this one did use a different kind of crisscross force, and that what we're doing is the spectator really gets to shuffle the deck. And this is an example of peeking, so that after the spectator shuffles up the deck and you show that the deck is actually shuffled, I spread very wide so they can see all of these cards and see that they're not together. And very quickly at the last second, I spread to the top card so I can see it, and then I close it up. And I see that that was a 2 of spades. And once I've caught that, I'm ready to make a prediction. So I would take a pad of paper, some kind of something to write on, and then I would write on there 2S. Now, I wrote it down here on the bottom so that whenever I fold it, I can make sure I fold it and you can't see through the paper to see it. I fold it up and then I fold it in. You want to practice with the paper you're going to use so that you can kind of see ahead of time how things are going to work. You don't want to make a mistake. So I do this and I make my prediction, and then I just do the force. Now my 2 of spades is actually on top of the deck because I peeked it, and I would have them cut about halfway, and they would set it right there, and then I would say, I'm going to take this, whatever I wrote on here, I'm just going to set this down at the break that you created. Again, that's a very important statement to make. You say the break that you created, and then I'm going to replace the cards at that spot that you made. Let's review what has happened, and then you take the time to delay. This is misdirection. It helps them to forget about everything that has happened. And the funny thing is that by reviewing what's happened, you're actually making them forget what really happened. Okay? You're sort of I don't know, this is kind of a big word to use, maybe for kids, but you're reprogramming their brain. You're telling them that something else happened. Even though it's kind of what happened, you're telling them a little bit differently so that they forget what really happened. You're going to tell them that you shuffled the cards. That's true. You're going to say that the cards were all mixed up. That's true. You're going to say that we don't know where any of the specific cards are in the deck. That's false. You know where the top card is, okay? And then you're going to say that they cut the deck where they wanted to. That's sort of true. You told them about halfway, but they did cut to a place that they wanted to. And then you say I made a prediction and we replaced the cards at the spot that you created. That's also kind of true. They did create the spot, but it's not the spot that you're holding at. You're actually holding at the place between the top and the bottom. So you're reprogramming the brains by reviewing, okay? Then you say, let's take a look at what you did. And say what you did. You lift up the top cards and you say, this piece of paper that I put in here, it says 2S, which means 2 of spades. Wouldn't it be amazing if you cut after I made my prediction? If you cut exactly to the 2 of spades, and we can see here that that's exactly what you did. So that is another different revelation from the one before, which makes the trick a different trick, even though it operates in the same principle as the last one. So that's a second trick that you can do using essentially the same method, the exact same method, just a different presentation and a different outcome. Now, one thing about using the same method, are these two different tricks? Yes. Could you do these two tricks together? Well, maybe. You could probably do the two tricks together if you do something else in between. But in general, you probably don't want to do two tricks at the same time that are using the exact same method. You would want to save those tricks apart for another moment, for another time. And that brings up an important point. How many tricks should you do for somebody? Well, I think you should do 1 or 2. I don't think you should do more than 1 or 2 tricks ever at any given moment for people. And if they miss the trick, then they miss the trick. Don't do it again for the same group of people, even if someone new comes in. If someone new comes in and someone in the group says, hey, show them this trick, that was great, show them another trick. Do a different one. Say, well, let me show you something else here, and go into something else and do a different trick. And that's how you get maybe 2 tricks out of a moment. But if you start doing too many, First of all, your methods are going to start to overlap and people may start to see through it. Okay. And the other thing is that you'll run out of material. You'll run out of everything that you know. You want to hold back quite a bit because you'll probably be showing the same people a lot of different tricks over a period of time. So the next week you might show them something else. And if you use up all 5 of your good tricks in that one moment, then the next week you've got nothing new to show them. You're just showing the same tricks over and over again. So hold back and, have some what we call restraint. Just show 1 trick, maybe 2 tricks, and try to show tricks that are using a slightly different method so that people don't see it. But anyway, same method, different trick. That's a good way to use a revelation in a different way, to use the same method for a different presentation. Let's take a look at another one.